Hello and welcome back to the Work in Progress podcast with me, Adekola. As you might know, this is a show where I have conversations with interesting people about things I'm working on personally or creatively. The hope is that we can learn from each other and get a little better each time. I'm not perfect, I'm work in progress. You can follow the show on Instagram.com/workingprogpodaddy. The email is addysworkingprogpod@gmail.com. So who am I? I'm a Black and British writer and performer based in Leeds, UK. And my breakthrough collection of poetry is called Busenze. It comes out in the UK with Burning Eye Books in September 2021. You'll be able to get that from my website, adekola.bigcartel.com. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Adekola Poetry. Okay. So today my guest is Abigail Busenze. Am I saying that right, Abigail?
Yeah. Yeah, you are.
A little bit. Abigail is a second-year psychology student at University of Leeds. She wasn't really seeing many people like her, so she got involved with the Black Feminist Society, and it made her come to terms with her passions, which is journaling. She's been featured on Gurls Talk. She likes writing. She's now a member of the Word by Word, where they curate important events such as decolonising psychology, mental health workshops, Black Femme Talk book club, journaling workshops with Words by Word, and also the LS6 project, which is a live stream of Leeds-based artists raising money for charity. And alongside this, she has been a youth advocate for War Child since 2018, an organisation that fundraises through music and she also speaks at concerts sharing her family story. I'm going to get onto your family stories in a sec, but Abigail, so you've been camping. How was that?
Yeah, that was so nice. I didn't realise how much nature there is in the UK. Like, that is that beautiful. Just being by the stream and stuff and really reflecting for a couple of days. It was a good break because I literally just finished my exams last week. So that was a nice retreat to have, yeah.
Your exams
Thank you.
And being out and about in the UK. So what did you swim, paddle? Like whereabouts did you
go? We didn't do much swimming because we found the wrong end of the water. We were by like a stream, so we just like sat in the water for a bit, which is really nice. But we walked and climbed, and we went on the wrong side of the hill. Like, you know, there's a normal footpath. We went and climbed and created our own footpaths and slid down these. It was so scary at times, but once you got there, it was so beautiful. Like, I was just so inspired and impressed by nature. It was so good to be around that. Psychologically, it's also a great thing for your mental health.
And I fully agree. Like, in the height of the first lockdown, my man did it on my 1 hour walks that you're allowed to do. I was out there, exploring different parks and different things. And even now, I'm excited to, especially when the weather being a lot better at the moment, I'm excited to do more outside things, being nature and stuff like that. I'm really with that. So, Abigail, from your accent, it sounds like you're from down south. So, how has it been, kind of, coming from there, and and being in Leeds these past however long you've been?
So I've been in Leeds for 3 years now, since 2018, and I grew up in Portsmouth, like the south coast of England, which is nice, but I live in a small town right next to the city of Portsmouth, and it does feel like a small town. It really does, in terms of people. Although they're really, really lovely, you can't escape racism there. So coming to Leeds, I know that when people came to Leeds from like London or more multicultural areas, they had said that it was super white. But for me, it felt different. It felt like there's more people like me. I feel also being that far away from family, as much as I do love them, it kind of made me grow up more. It made me experiment with, I don't know, like my identity in terms of like style and who I surround myself with and my interests. Like, I think I've broadened my horizon a lot more than just going to London where I feel more comfortable, more safe, where I know loads of people and I'm not that far from family. So going to a different place was really nice, I'd say. Yeah, Leeds is great.
I'll be honest. I was born in Nigeria, and then I grew up living in Leeds for most of my life. Really, I was about maybe 8 years old. So I've pretty much grown up in Leeds, and yeah, and obviously doing creative activities in the city and things like that. It was it was hard getting into finding out where they're happening and stuff like that. Even harder kind of finding black people at them and telling black spaces, etc. But now that we're starting to have those and we're starting to make some movements in that regard, I'm really I'm happy about that. And I've even thought recently that like okay, I've got all my use out of Leeds. It's I need to kind of move to London somewhere like that. But obviously with the lockdown and things like that, I've had to kind of rediscover Leeds. Whether it's greenery and the outdoor things or Yorkshire in general, to the actual creative things. And now I'm actually starting to think, actually, you know what? There's still a lot that I can, there's still a lot that I can get out from this place. There's a lot of cool people to meet. There's a lot of cool things to do. But to be honest, I have been to some events that have taken place, mostly university events and things like that. And from time to time, I will see like a kid from London, or I'll say kid, a student from London, or a person of colour from London, and they'll just be abashing, like these, like, oh, like when I came here, I came off the train, I didn't see any black people, there wasn't, nothing's been going on, this and that, and I just didn't agree with that, because I'm like, first of all, when you go from one place to another place, you can't expect the place you're going to be the same as the place you just left. That's the first thing. It's like, how does that? And secondly, it's like, nah, you haven't really tapped into what you don't know the Leeds history. You don't know about like all the carnivals being here. You don't know about all the stuff that's happened before you came here. You don't know it, and obviously Leeds as well, the city with the public transport is not great, and unless you know and get put in touch with certain things, you kind of, unless you get shown it, you don't really know it. So you don't know all the activities that black people are doing and what people of colour are doing in Leeds. So it's like I just get sensitive to be like, nah, like you can't just come from somewhere else and trash it, especially if you haven't really put in the work to make those connections to whatever. So that's just a little kind of a thing of mine, but
yeah, and the black history here is insane. I don't know if you've been on the walk with Joe Williams.
I have.
I've been
talk about it.
He's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Talk
about I went on one. I think obviously in October, and it was amazing. Heritage walks with Joe Williams. We were on the campus at Leeds University, and we just kind of and he just talked about obviously I mean, from my perspective, I'm not Nigerian heritage. Things like Wale Soyinka having gone to Leeds University, and even Chinua Achebe having connections to Leeds, and of course more sad experiences like David Oluwale, who actually I'm actually on the board of the David Oluwale Memorial Association, and so we work to kind of people should look at his story, but he's someone that migrated migrated from Nigeria to Leeds, and had a tough experience. He experienced racism, and he did want to die at the hands of police, and it was one of the first times that police got convicted in connection with someone's death in British history. So that's a tragic story, etc. But the work that the charity do is about telling his story, keeping his legacy alive, and promoting anti-racism and mental health, and supporting migrants, these kind of things. And I've actually recently I've got making a film. We made a film. I saw the first edit just last night actually, with a couple of uni students, Moondogs production, and it'll be. We're excited to kind of share that with the world. The score is good, the colouring is good, but beyond just David Oluwale and tragic stories like that, but just abolitionists. There's just a rich history, obviously, Appletown and carnival and all these and all these centres and all these cultures that we have in Leeds, going back from more recent times since Windrush, but also all the ones as well. So there's a lot there if you're prepared to look.
Yeah, I love that, because I think when people do Black History Month, it's often related to African American history, which is definitely needs to be told, but there's other Africans in the diaspora that also need to have their stories told, and to have it in a small city like Leeds, like it's incredible to see how rich the Black community has been involved, like in this place. Yeah, and it's nice to have it told and to walk around and be walking in the footsteps of these people. It's really amazing, very surreal. Recommend people to go 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely go on those heritage walks. The one I went to was actually special because I think they had like some artists like kind of doing some poetry and kind of bringing it a bit more to life. Talking about Pablo Frank, and it was I remember Rahima Mims Robertson, she did one. I think Jamal Gerald did one, and there's another lady that did one. I can't remember her name at the moment. But yeah, it's just really amazing, like artists that reinterpreted different parts of the walk and brought it to life. So yeah, I love that. So have you always been interested in like history and heritage and things like that? Like what?
I want to say yes, in terms of my parents made sure to keep our culture within us when we moved here. So I was born in Sweden, lived there till I was around 7, and then moved here. So they kind of really instilled our culture in us. But more so, probably around the age of 15, 16, where I no longer was internalizing. Well, I still was internalizing, but I was beginning the process of removing the internalization of white supremacy, white normativity towards what beauty is and what should be, like, white standards. I was going through the process of removing that at the age of 15, 16, and that made me do research. And then from there, it became more intense, probably at university when I came to Black Feminist Talk, and my older brother as well, who loves history, and I'm so blessed to have him as my brother because he teaches me a lot. He has his own Instagram page called Legacy_UG, where he teaches about pre-colonial Uganda or pre-colonial East Africa. Sometimes he spreads it out a bit. And I just recognize the importance of how empowering it is. Like, I don't know if you've seen, like, I can't even explain a film that made me, when I watched it, I just felt like I was the best. I felt like the baddest, just to know, like, this is my heritage. Or like every time I go back to Uganda and I'll go to this thing called the Ndera Troupe, where they basically have a showcase showing you the different tribal, the different traditions of different tribes in Uganda. And watching that and then feeling like these are my people. This is what they did. This is where I've come from. There's something so empowering about that, and it's such a shame that there are so many people and so many children who don't get to know about this because it's not that accessible. You have to work hard to find this information as well. And once I started recognizing the importance of this, I've just became more invested in, and the longer I stayed at Black Feminist Talk, the more encouraged I felt. And I think there is just, in our generation, we are all like keen to understand ourselves more. So I'm surrounded by more people who really appreciate their cultures and their history. And I think that's how I would answer your question.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that. No, that's fab. Yeah, I think I think it's a journey. I think I talk about it in my book that I mentioned at the top of the show, Negrescence. And so Negrescence, it's a sociological theory by a Black American scholar that came up with it I want to say in the 60s and 70s, and it just talks about the process of Black identity formation. It talks about it's like roughly 5 stages, and it's not like linear. You can like move between the stages or back down, but it kind of talks about. I remember the first stage is kind of not knowing that unaware, being aware that you're different from the dominant culture, and like as a kid, maybe 3, 4, 5, etc. Then something happens that makes you aware that that you're going, and then it's like your reaction to that, whether that's then stage might be like, okay, you kind of maybe just reject from the dominant culture or whatever, and then a stage where you kind of like really into your pro-blackness, and then other stages like where you're kind of more of a, maybe say if you're older, like if you get to be an old person or whatever, you kind of have like more confident in yourself, and then you can also look at how other people might be oppressed in the same ways as you, and also in other ways as well. It's it's an idea, it's a concept that useful, but it really, I felt it was relevant to me because for a long, growing up born in Nigeria, lived a few years in Saudi Arabia, and then kind of obviously now growing up in the north of England, like it was like, so how you mentioned some people who say Leeds is really white, like my experience with Leeds wasn't really white because I went to state schools that were quite like, that was they obviously probably were white, but I kind of really only noticed the black and brown kids in there. So all my friends growing up were like Asian, Arabs, and African people, etc. And so the people that would like, when I came to, I guess, England in year 3, so the people that I'd be like scrapping with and fighting with when I was in primary school, they were like black kids like me, Caribbean kids, or from wherever. Same in high school, like the people that I'd fight or bully with, etc. They were all black or brown kids. So it wasn't really like, I wasn't really aware of white people as they weren't really on my radar like that. The people who all lived in my area as well. We all lived in like the city, poorer areas, etc. And they were people I really noticed were black and brown. So it's only when I got to like college and then things like that, that's when I was really kind of middle class, the middle class whiteness and things like that, and then I got to maybe even uni a little bit as well. So I kind of came to the so it was really kind of an interesting experience for me in terms of realizing, I do live in a predominantly white society, and it is set up for it's set up for white people. And then so I had to go on a bit of a journey on myself, and which I'm still on. It's about kind of naming things like the education that I got never gave me anything. We never heard the word capitalism. We never heard the word colonialism. We never heard the word Orientalism, Islamophobia, patriarchy. We never all these we never even heard these words as these concepts. So it was, as we, like you said, these histories about Africa before colonization, before contact with Europeans in terms of Christianity, or contact with with Arabs in terms of Islam or other ethnicities. We don't know too much about this, and even now it's still hard to kind of get these things and find out. And like you said, you really have to dedicate some time and be kind of lucky as well and be in the right places to be shown these things. But for me now, like I said, I'm on my journey of kind of my identity, and just realizing obviously, like we always say, there's race and all that, it's a social construct, etc. Race is fine, there's no issue with it. Racism is what's the problem. Do you know what I mean? Discrimination is the problem. And just
it's very I was going to say, it's very interesting how you said that it was in college when you started to become more aware of middle class white people and white supremacy and stuff, because that was also around the age that I started to understand that as well. However, I grew up in a completely white area, middle class as well, some would say. Some would say. And I went to a private school as well, but on bursary. And I was the only black girl at that school. And it was a girls' school. And I wasn't, I obviously knew I was a black person. I knew my skin color. Do you know what I mean? And it wasn't that I wasn't, I didn't know, but there was something about me just not noticing it until I got to college, where I met even more people. And then that's when the isolation became more clear. It's one of those things where, like, the way trauma is it's kind of helpful sometimes. And in psychology, they call it obviously like repressed trauma. So you don't realize you're going through it and you're just surviving. And then once you're out of that situation, so for example, me coming to a university where I go to Black Fem Stock and meet more people that are like me and more people who have the same vibes as me. Now I'm finally in my safe space. Looking back, I can see the trauma that I've experienced from the racism from when I was in school and college, but I wasn't aware of it during the time. And that kind of was a safety thing because I couldn't get out of that place, but now I'm out of that place and I have more access to different things. I can filter out certain people more. I'm now very, like, I can see it now. Like I'm not using my rose tinted glasses anymore. I can see when there is racism. And like, that was something that did push me to want to understand my history more. And it's interesting that you say that it's in college as well, when you were surrounded by more middle-class white people. That was the kind of same experience.
Yeah, I think, Anna, I just, we just, be grateful that actually that, because, there might be other people in that situation who had those feelings, but didn't feel like maybe didn't have the tools or didn't really feel like supported to kind of, express like, actually, I need to, what does being black mean to me? I need to find out myself what does being, black and British or black and wherever, and what does being an African mean to me. And yeah, it's really, I don't, it's like, you got to know where you're coming from to know where you're going, kind of thing. And just that, I think that knowledge of that sense of that knowledge of self and kind of knowledge of where you come from, it really can be empowering and draw a lot of inspiration and give you like a lot of draw a lot of strength from that, really, a lot of inspiration from that. And just knowing all the different people that have survived, that have resisted, that have expressed themselves, whether it's on the African, whether in Africa or in the diaspora, if you're talking about, the Caribbean, in America, South America, and here, obviously Britain, and wherever else in the world. And, there's all, those stories and those people, they can relate to you. There's something that you can learn from them. And yeah, it's I don't know, it's interesting. I think self-discovery and being on a journey of self-discovery, especially racially and in terms of race and class and culture, is beautiful. And I think it's something that I'm really I think I'm glad that door's opened, and I've never really I can't see myself ever looking back, it shapes it shapes a lot of what I think now and what I want to do in the future. Like more recently I'm looking into Afrofuturism and and speculative fictions from a black lens and things like that. And it's just it's just a case of, it's not about, and all it is just you're embracing and you're trying to tap into something that was denied from you either willingly or unwillingly. Do you know what I mean? It was you were what you've you just didn't have access to this information. You didn't have access to the idea that actually that there's a whole world of thinking and a whole world of culture and knowledge out there in Africa or in the African diaspora. And and it's our right, it's our birthright, it's our heritage to actually look into that, tap in from that, and take from that what we will. It's not like for me, it's not a case of it's not a case of having rose tinted and thinking that black people are obviously are not superhuman or perfect or anything like that, which is another extreme that some people when they do portray black people, that's one extreme that they do, that they like the magical the magical best friend that solves your problems. Not fully or hyper masculine or this or that, not fully realized humans, not nuanced. But me as someone is to be like, okay, actually no, this is this is another way of expressing yourself. It's another way of being, and this is something worth kind of drawing on. So yeah, so I'm really I'm just excited to kind of delve more into that, to reclaim kind of heritage. Yeah, I'm with you on that 100%.
Yeah, it's important, especially for kids, and their brains are so receptive and they're taking in so much information. We have to be careful with what we feed them, and if we feeding them like our history and our heritage, and letting them see shows and films where they see themselves and in characters that aren't like, you know, the punchline to jokes, or like the side person, or, you know, the underdog, and seeing them in a different way. You know, I think it's very empowering. Like, you could see how it was with Black Panther. Like, everyone was excited. I'm sure now with Yasuki, I think I pronounce it wrong each time, but it's the anime about the Black Samurai from East Africa, which is a true story. The anime is not real because it's like robots and stuff like that in like ancient times. But there was a Black Samurai from East Africa who went and traveled to the East and learned and stuff like that. It's really incredible. And to see these things in children's shows. There's even like a show called Motown, which is definitely for like under 6 or under like 7-year-olds. And it's just like a black kid walking around the street singing different, well, it's not Motown music, but having like Motown kind of sound to the songs. I think it's just important, and we're going in the right direction and focusing in on ourselves. You know, we need to do that more often. It's so important.
Yeah, thanks for the recommendations, and you know, and your brother's page as well. When I post this, I want to make sure to tag that page so people can check it out.
All right, thank you.
But yeah, no, yeah, like you said, I definitely agree with what you said about Black Panther. It really was, and you know, it was a kind of a good moment in terms of reintroducing people to the idea of, you know, of kind of Afrofuturism, you know, Black to the future, that kind of thing. I'm excited to check out that Yatsuki show. If it's anything, I wanted to mention this. So obviously, my heritage from West Africa, East Africa. I know that you know, I've come across text about just some of the East Africans that went to India and they kind of had their kind of because obviously, as far as I'm aware, you know, East Africa and the you know, the Indian Ocean is right there, isn't it? In terms of if you go across here, so. Because I know even small things like, you know, like samosa, which is in like you know, South Asian culture. I think there's like something exactly similar in East African culture. And I know even when I look at one of my boys, like one of my boys in Uganda as well, and then I look at their traditional dress, and it really looks a lot like some of the traditional dresses that you get from East Africa. So if you kind of like just talk to me a little bit about, like, you know, what East African like heritage and culture kind of like means to you.
Well, I can only specifically speak about Uganda because I don't know much about the others, although I did my ancestry DNA and I found out I'm 73% Kenyan, which does include Uganda as well, but Burundi and Rwanda, just that region. And then I'm also 14% Nigerian and Benin, so woo. Yeah, but in terms of the food and stuff, there is definitely similarities with the Southern Asian community. I think it's because they did come to Uganda, and definitely there was conflict. When I say conflict, I don't think it's not in like a war kind of situation, but more so like in a financial thing. And still to this day, I think it's a very controversial topic to speak about, so I won't speak about it too much. But yeah, there's influences from their cultures that have come to ours, which is really beautiful and merged. So we, instead of saying samosa, we say sambusa. Instead of saying, I don't know how they pronounce chapati, but we say chapati, some people say chapati. We make those. Even our traditional wear as well, we wear saris as well, which was really cool. We also got our own traditional wear called gomesi. And we also got like a wrap dress as well, which has the Ugandan colours on it. The East African culture, what it means to me. Well, what I've noticed coming to university, let's say if I go to ACS, the Afro-Caribbean Society, I don't think I've met many East Africans. I don't even think I've met Caribbeans in these societies. I think it's very much West African focused. And I do think that it kind of, when you hear about Africa, you do just genuinely think of just like West Africa, I feel. That's what makes me even more proud to be Ugandan and East African, because, you know, we need to be talked about more. We have things. I love the music scene there as well. Like, music is something I'm very, very passionate about in terms of curating and the events and stuff, but also just listening to. And in Uganda, they have a whole season for music, which starts in May and finishes in September with Nyega Nyega Festival. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's a festival in Lake Victoria, and they've had a boiler room set and everything, and they've just gotten these amazing DJs. People travel all around the world to go there. Yeah, that it's just really cool to be a part of that, and to just, when I go back to Uganda and go to nature, like how I said when I went camping and being in nature in the UK, very, very beautiful, but it's even more intense for me when I go to Uganda because I have connection to that earth, to that soil. It's just incredible to be around these people, and they're so intelligent, and I don't know what else to tell you, man. Like, it just means a lot to me. I'm very proud of that I'm very proud of the people. The politics is another story.
It comes with passion for, your heritage and the culture and how that, inspires you. It does come through, and like you said, I'm really with that. I find that a lot of spaces are kind of very West African dominated, particularly in Nigeria. And if you talk about Nigeria, it's particular parts of Nigeria, particular groups in Nigeria. So it's funny for me because like I mentioned earlier, it's not. I was more aware of different dynamics beyond just like, okay, I'm black and I live in a white country, and that's the main dynamic. No, like obviously coming from Muslim, coming from a Muslim family and the heritage, like I was obviously kind of I feel like I was well versed in I was around it has pros and cons, like the mosques, like the places like that I would go to. They were not majority black spaces. They were majority Asian or Arab spaces. So I was kind of familiar with those people, those languages, and those heritages. Because just based off on a religious perspective, and then. But when I was, obviously, with Leeds back in those days when I was growing up, there's not as many African people about, and as many Nigerian people about. And so what I say that to say kind of like, just because like, someone else is black, it's like, I know that, there might be other like kind of differences, whether it's religion, whether it's language and ethnicity, etc. That doesn't necessarily mean that, you might necessarily click straight away, but obviously, there's more you can have. There's more to have in common with people than obviously, skin color or religion or etc. But so it's now that I'm getting older that I'm actually actively like trying to be inspired by and to relate with black people from different backgrounds, from black people from different backgrounds, so whether that's East African, whether that's from the Caribbean, people from the Caribbean, obviously, Black America and African Americans, Black American culture, that I'm really influenced by that from, hip hop side of things and from just American pop culture in general. But I think it's comes from when you get your mind open to like how there's a billion black people in Africa. There's a billion people in Africa. It's like when you get your mind open to the fact that there's more, like obviously there's more black people in Nigeria than there are in the whole of the United States of America, and you start to realize that actually there's just so more, like there's just more than one way to be African, more than one way to be black, more in whether in the African diaspora or in the world. And it's up to you if you how creative do you want to be, how kind of how inspired you want to be by all the different things. And it comes from a place of confidence as well. If if you kind of confident in where you are, where you're coming from, it makes it maybe easier to embrace other cultures and embrace other expressions of blackness.
Like when you understand that being black and being African is not a monolith, like it's not a one way thing, it allows you to be yourself more. Of course, we have that collective conscience and collective ideologies and values and stuff like that, coming from a similar background, and collective experiences as well. We're all different, and I feel like that's why it's nice to to look back on your history and your heritage, and it's nice to explore your identity and realize that you're still Black and you're still African and still Caribbean, whether you are the stereotype or not. Like, there's nothing that can strip you away from that. There's nothing. And even like, I think everyone, I can't say everyone, but I speak for me mainly, and people who've grown up similar to me, have had that moment of self-hatred where you don't want to be African or you don't want to be as dark as you are. But once you really let that go and realize, like, there's nothing you can do about it. There's really nothing you can do about it. You just have to surrender and accept it. And then from there, that's your foundation, that's your base. From there, you can explore all these different sides to you and all these different cultures and music. And that's why we have so many different genres of music and so many different types of people. Like, we're not the same, and we shouldn't try and be the same, you know, as far as it is to like just your personality or the type of group you hang out with. Like, it's important, I think.
No, I agree. It's definitely it's definitely giving yourself permission, to be how you are, who you are is important, and while being kind of conscious of things like colorism, of things like how certain stereotypes and so on and so forth. But yeah, just like I said, we're not the same, and nothing can strip away your blackness, and you're right, and express that in the most best way that fits you, really. So yeah, no, I'm with that 100%. So I think I'm just wondering if there's anything else that you wanted to mention that we haven't discussed. I've really enjoyed this chat, and I'm happy to wind down, or can you tell us something that's happening with Word by Word?
Oh, so Word by Word Collective. I don't know if you know Makeda. She used to go to University of Leeds, and she started this in the summer last year. Actually, no, April last year. And it was just a group of friends who loved to write, and we just sent in our work, and we just gave each other feedback. That was it. It was just a place to just make ourselves feel more confident in our writing. She noticed that, wait a second, we write so well, why don't we do something about it? And so she created little workshops. We'd run workshops together. So I did journaling workshops, because journaling is something I'm very, very passionate about. And I'm so glad that the world, the universe is recognizing my passion and is appreciating it. It's very validating. So I would run journaling workshops as other people who would do free writing workshops, stuff like that. And we did that for up until now. We still do it. And then finally we decided to make a little magazine. And our first issue was Rebirth. So we properly started this probably in August, maybe. And we finally, Makeda did all the funding and all that stuff. I can't take credit for that. So she did all the funding and all that stuff to be able to actually make it into a physical piece of work, which is incredible. And we have illustrators that are also our friends. And also we're going to have an audio zine, which was my idea, where I really struggle to read. I take a very long time, regardless of me running the book club, it takes me a very long time to read. And I realized when I read and I'm listening to someone reading to me at the same time, I can match their pace and read faster and still comprehend everything. So I thought, how about we do that? And I think that would make a more intense experience, and we amplify the experience of the reader. They get to hear the author's voice whilst reading the work. Or maybe we'll have, some kind of background sound or music. And that's what we did. We tried it out first with Sable Radio. They had they had a collaboration with Hypertext Bound Fair. Oh, I'm really butchering the name, but it was like a literature festival, and we were involved, and we did a whole hour-long set where Makeda was obviously making her mixes and stuff like that, but in between we'll have our own poems that we would read. And I read out one of my own poems, which is also the one that my friend Ruby read out for me at the Say It With Your Chest and Black Feminist collab. She read it out for me because I was too scared to go up. But it was essentially just about being a Black woman and not realizing my worth, and then finally realizing my worth. That's basically what it was about. So now the Word by Word collective has released the magazine, which I'm really excited about. So it's available to purchase now. And we've also got loads of workshops coming up. I think we've got one on tomorrow, actually. Tomorrow at 7. You just have to go on the Instagram. Really good. Yeah.
Shout out to Makeda. Obviously, we love it when when creatives get together and support on things. Especially coming out of that Black Femme stuff kind of coming that, especially you mentioned a few people involved in Black Femme stuff like Ruby, so shout out to her and also so that's pretty cool. And shout out to Sable Radio as well. And that's an example of an organisation basically that they're really I guess people like Bailey, they're from that down south, etc. London, but they've really come and they've really embraced Leeds, and Leeds have embraced them, and really put their stamp on and really promoting and just really and been really supportive of my work personally, and also Say It With Your Chest that I do with my friend Ty. So shout out to all those people. And the Word by Word. I was checking out they were doing an Instagram live the other day with Nika Shukla and one of a poet from Sheffield. Can't remember her name, but she was really good. And so it's like you guys are onto big things. So please everybody check out Word by Word and support that and get involved. And we love to see getting funding to do art creative stuff. It's not easy. I can tell you all about that. But shout out to you guys, and just keep doing what you're doing, and as you say, kind of just offering feedback to each other, supporting each other, and then just promoting creative expression, promoting writing, especially from colour. It's always people of colour. It's always a cool thing to see. That's fab. Thanks for sharing that with us. I think it was Abigail. It was nice talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
Fab. All right, peace out. See you guys soon. Love.
All right, thank you. Bye.